Hey, look, this is what I want to start off, and I know everybody's handing a candle, so maybe we can't clap, but could you join me in however, hootin' hollering or whatever, to show our appreciation for the United States Border Patrol? Yeah! Woo! Right? Right? And I'll talk about in a minute how they're being scapegoated, vilified, and condemned, violating one of the most fundamental process, of core values of our country, and that is fair, impartial due process. And that's exactly what's not happening at the hands of this administration. Look, let's talk about a few facts, because from this administration, including the chief architect, Secretary Mayorkas, everything that comes out of this man's mouth is spin, misdirection, and a lie to the American people. So let me talk to you about some facts. First of all, this administration inherited the most secure border in modern history. That's a fact. Right? Look, what we did under the Trump administration, we actually garnered unprecedented cooperative agreements with all three Northern Triangle countries. And look, unprecedented is the right word. It's never been done before. We entered into an agreement with the government of Mexico with respect to the Remain in Mexico program. That is what I often refer to as the game changer. That ended one of the largest loopholes we had in our system, is that if you came to our borders illegally with a child as a family, it was your automatic passport in the United States. We closed that down. We shut it down, and we ended catch and release under the Trump administration. And look, what that led to is we also sent a clear message that if you want to be a part of the greatest country on the face of the planet, you're not going to start the process by violating the rule of law, violating our laws, and filing a fraudulent asylum claims. And that's exactly what we did under the Trump administration. Look, and then by February of 2020, we had reduced the flow by over 75% because of the network of tools, authorities, and policies that we were provided under President Trump. And part of that multi-layered strategy of infrastructure, technology, and personnel that we know works, we built 465 miles of wall. In addition to that, when we were hit with COVID in 2020, we immediately went to action and we developed the what's called Title 42. It came from the CDC, which gave the Border Patrol the authority to those who are illegally entering our United States to apprehend them and remove them immediately. And that applied to all demographics. We didn't make political carve-outs. In my opinion, that saved countless American lives when that was entered. And so then fast forward, and what happened to this administration? The first thing that they did was dismantle everything that we had in place. They stopped building the wall. They ended and rescinded the asylum cooperative agreements that we had with all three Northern Triangle countries. They ended Title 42 for most demographics. And of course, we know they stopped building the wall. And look, Title 42, they stopped applying Title 42 for families when their own CDC says that they still should apply Title 42 in the best interest of America to further reduce the spread of COVID-19 from outside our borders. And now let's get to some of the lies, right? So we don't have time. We would be here all night if I actually talked about all the lies being told by this administration. But let me hit just a couple. First of all, right, they inherited a dismantled system. It's a lie. I just walked through every single effective tool and authority and policy that they dismantled. The other thing that I love to call them out on is that under President Trump, they inherited a system of disorderly, inhumane policies. Let me call some BS on that. First of all, right now, when they get called on the fact that they have absolutely a man-made, by this administration, catastrophic disaster on our southwest border, and they keep saying about inhumane policies, but yet when they're pushed, they actually brag about that they're still removing people. And what do they brag about? How are they removing people? Title 42. Where did that come from? That came from President Trump. So the very policies that they say are inhumane, they're now using them. And let's talk about the Remain in Mexico program. Why did they stop the Remain in Mexico program? They said because it's inhumane. That's interesting, because they'll send individuals back to Mexico, the same illegal alien, under Title 42, but it's inhumane to send it back under the Remain in Mexico program. It's lies, it's absurdity, it's nonsensical, and it's hypocrisy. Look, two more real quick, and then I know I got to go. Look. Also the seasonal argument. Everybody here knows that's BS as well. I still remember in April when they were making the Cecil argument, and there's nothing to see here, right? There's nothing to see. This happens every single year. And at that moment, they were experiencing a 900% increase from the previous April. It was BS then and it's BS now. They said, wait till summer comes, the numbers will go down. What's happened? Just as we said, the numbers have actually gone up. 2 months in a row of over 200,000. Again, nothing but lies. The last lie I'll talk about, directly from this secretary. Secretary Mayorkas. How many times have we heard him say the borders are closed? That's ludicrous, right? I mean, let's look at just Del Rio, although it's happened along all 2,000 miles. If you look just at Del Rio, and that's a microcosm, you literally have, in a 7-day period, 30,000 Haitians come across, and he still wants to say our borders are closed. Right? There were actually Haitians that came across to the U.S. and then they would get hungry. They'd actually go back to Mexico to get food and then come back to the U.S. side. And this secretary wants to say our borders are closed. It's a lie. I know I'm getting the hook here. So just real quick, I'm almost done, I promise. So a couple of other things. So the secretary, congressional testimony, he's asked by Senator Johnson 3 basic questions. Since you took office, how many illegal immigrants, how many illegal aliens have you released, detained, and removed? Pretty simple. Secretary couldn't answer the question. That's unconscionable with respect to what he should be able to do. The last thing that I'll say is borders are closed. So far, since they took over office, over 600,000 illegal aliens they've allowed into the United States that they've released. In addition to that, because our borders are wide open, because Border Patrol agents are pulled off the line to process 200,000 in a single month, I'm being conservative when I say 350 to 400,000 gotaways that have gotten past our frontline defense and they've made their way into every town, city, and state. And I'll end with this. What they have done with respect to those pictures of the United States Border Patrol on horses is unconscionable, especially the secretary is a former prosecutor. He should know better than anybody else about that founding principle in America about having a fair, impartial due process system. He chucked all that away. He's the guy that said, quote, they've weaponized the horses to attack children. He says he's horrified by that. And as the secretary, a cabinet level official, it was his responsibility to make sure the president of the United States knew the facts and knew the truth. Even after the photographer came out and said, the photographer that took the picture said there were no whips and nobody was whipped by the Border Patrol, the president of the United States still gets out there, use his bully pulpit to lie to the American people, to tarnish these agents' reputation and their careers and the Border Patrol. We cannot stand for it, and that's why I say Secretary Mayorkas, he needs to go and he should be fired immediately. Thanks.
Senator Ted Cruz.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight and talking about the incredible crisis we have at our southern border. Joe Biden claims there is no crisis at the border. Kamala Harris claims there is no crisis at the border. Secretary Mayorkas claims there is no crisis at the border. I'll give you a simple challenge, Joe Biden. Come down to the Rio Grande Valley. Look at it with your own eyes. We've had over 1.2 million people cross illegally since Joe Biden became president. We are on a path to 2 million people crossing illegally in the first year of Biden's presidency. Now, Joe Biden named Kamala Harris as the so-called border czar, and she immediately ran for the hills. She wanted nothing to do with it because this disaster is man-made. This disaster was caused by political decisions made by Joe Biden, made by Kamala Harris. And you know, for 4 years, we listened to Democrats and we listened to the corrupt corporate media talk about kids in cages, kids in cages. What they never admitted is the cages were built by Barack Obama, and right now today the cages are bigger and they're more full under Joe Biden. I invite Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, come to the Biden cages in Donna, Texas. Cages filled with over 4,000 people, little boys and little girls, packed on top of each other with a 22% COVID rate of positivity. And you see the angry leftists, they don't care. They're not willing to look at the little kids in those cages. They're not willing to see the children that are sexually assaulted by human traffickers. They're not willing to look and see when I brought 19 senators down to the border earlier this year and we saw an 11-year-old girl who'd been gang raped by the human traffickers. And today's hard left, they're not concerned at all. Those children don't matter to them. In 9 months, as this border is unfolded, you know how many hearings the Senate Judiciary Committee has had on our border crisis? 0. Not a single hearing. We've had 4 hearings on amnesty. That's the Democrats' priority, but they do not care that this is a public health crisis, that this is a national security crisis, and this is a humanitarian crisis. You know, today's Democrats like to pretend that they're humane and compassionate. But let me tell you something. Nobody who cared about compassion would want to see a single little girl or single little boy in the care and custody of human traffickers. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, I was down at the border. I did a roundtable. You know what the traffickers are doing now? The cartels are putting colored wristbands around the wrists of the people they're trafficking into the country. To cross into the United States costs anywhere between $3,000 and $8,000. And what they do, they charge these people this money. Then they come to a stash house just north of the river in the United States, and sadly, many of these little girls, little boys are sexually assaulted by the cartels, and they extract thousands of dollars more. And the different colors on the wristbands correspond to how many thousands of dollars they paid and how many thousands of dollars more they owe. And then when these individuals get placed at cities throughout the United States, they have to work to pay off their thousands of dollars of debts they owe to the cartels. And they have to pay them off because the cartel knows where their family is back in Honduras or Nicaragua or Guatemala or wherever they came from. And the cartel will kill their parents. And so you've got right now here in D.C. and New York and whatever city you live in, you have teenage boys who were trafficked in by the cartels that are working for the cartels right now to pay off their debt. Not only that, even more tragically, you've got teenage girls, 15, 16-year-old girl who decides, I'm going to come to America, I'm going to come to the promised land. And her parents pay the cartels thousands of dollars. She comes up here and she finds herself in cartel housing in a city across this country in forced prostitution to pay off the thousands of dollars of debt she owes. She's living in the hell of human slavery to these cartels. And what did Joe Biden and Kamala Harris say about it? Not a damn thing. What do they do to stop it? Not a damn thing. They insist it isn't happening. Secretary Mayorkas went to the border and said there is no border crisis. Tell that to the 15,000 Haitians that were under the bridge in Del Rio. I was in Del Rio a week and a half ago and saw it with my own eyes. Where was Joe Biden? Where was Kamala Harris? And yet Joe Biden repeats the lies, and not only that, he demonizes law enforcement. He demonizes the heroes of Border Patrol. I've gotten to know a lot of the men and women of Border Patrol. They are great American patriots. I've been out on midnight patrol with the members of Border Patrol. They risk their lives taking on human traffickers, taking on drug traffickers. And what does Joe Biden do? He stands up and abuses his position by saying he is going to punish the Border Patrol for trying to do their job. It was disgraceful. It was disgusting. And Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, says there is no crisis, there is no problem. 2 million illegal immigrants coming into this country, no problem at all. Open borders is a disaster. It is cruel. It is inhumane. It is resulting in children being abused. And our lefty hecklers here don't give a damn about the kids being abused. I want to say something in particular to the angel families here, to the families who lost loved ones to violent criminals crossing the border. Our lefty hecklers don't care. They don't care at all. But you know what? The American people do. Biden's advisors on immigration are counting on the media lying to the American people. I can tell you The American people know what's happening on the border. It is disgusting, it is cruel, it is wrong, it needs to end, and we need to fire Alejandro Mayorkas because he isn't doing his job. And open borders are cruel, they are evil, it is a public health crisis, it is a national security crisis. And so let me say to each of you, thank you for being here, thank you for speaking the truth, and we will return to sanity in this country. We will leave the lawless policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that are endangering the safety and security of families in Texas and all throughout the country. God bless you guys.